My name is Chris Harris. I'm the artistic director for Louder Than Words Dance Theater. I'm also the main choreographer right now. That may change through time. We'll see how that works. This idea for the show for Tensegrity basically came from an exploratorium trip. Came from going to a museum a long time ago. And I am, my background really is dance and architecture. And for me, those are the most sort of basic forms of art for me. That's first form of art, really, physical expression. First form outside of ourselves is really creation of homes and spaces to be safe in. And so really those two things kind of mix together for me. That's, I think, how I look at the world. We went to the exploratorium and I fell in love with a whole bunch of different ideas on perspective, on structure, on sort of how all of it gets, how things get put together and how things sort of affect each other and how we perceive the world, and kind of mixed all of that together. And this, the first Ames chair, which is part of string theory, that particular thing, that exhibit is maybe, 3 feet long, and we decided to make it as life-size as we possibly could, and in fact made the chair a little bit bigger, partially for my solo, because this stuff makes me feel a little small, which is good, and so I'm sort of exploring all of that perspective. The perspective, really it's about perspective. We tend to, in this culture, forget about live theater, that those are real human beings on stage, that they can hear us, that they can, as an audience member, we, even those of us who are trained, who grew up in the theater, tend to forget that those are real people that's happening in real time. And this is a one-chance thing. It's never going to be like this again. You can't repeat it. It's impossible. And that in itself is so amazing to me, and so really precious, that what I'm trying to do is sort of share that idea. Because when we are in your face as dancers, you can't really forget. It doesn't, we can't sort of back ourselves up and sit as an audience and watch that beautiful thing happening over there. You're needing to make decisions. What are you going to watch? Are you going to watch the person that's directly in front of you, or are you going to watch through them? Are you going to deal with the perspective and the distance that this space, which is so lovely and so enormous, allows? You don't need to just watch that person, because right now I'm perceiving you and the wall and everything else around us and behind us and 3 sculptures and, but we don't think about that, I think. And what I'm trying to do is sort of force the thought process. And then that same thing for the second balcony and for the third balcony, in that just to shift that perspective completely. Tensegrity really is about, for me, it's about being able to use science and technology and mathematics and structure and balance that with things that seem more ethereal. And they really are, I think dance is not really ethereal. I think it is life itself. And so I don't see it sort of as a separate, lofty thing. I see it as absolutely grounded and the most real thing that you can do. So trying to balance kind of those different parts of myself. And it came out pretty cool. I'm pretty excited. The second half of this show is next. Definitely in a big picture. We're probably going to do, coming up in, I'm thinking we're going to try to get the rehearsal process to be set enough and settled enough that we can do another show before next June. And because eventually we're going to take it to 3 shows a year. That's my plan. That's what show we're aiming for, either November or January, depending on period of time. And then again, and that show would be lighter, probably more jazz-based. I have a whole bunch of ideas in my head. It's actually a sports show, is what I'm thinking. Because we forget that dancers are athletes. But again, back to this ethereal thing. I feel like if we slammed ourselves into walls like hockey players did, then people would understand how much work it really took to do it. So.